accepted, challenge accepted. Reality is always challenge accepted. Challenge accepted, challenge accepted. Reality is always challenge accepted.
Our next speaker has been to challenge accepted so many times that we're seriously considering giving him a permanent Bulgarian residence.
At this point, he's practically family, and we know exactly why he keeps coming back. It's not just the conference, it's also the food. Shkembe churba, lutenica, pacha. He loves Bulgarian cuisine so much, he even adjusted his name for it.
But besides his culinary adventures, Mr. Pacia is a QA consultant from Krakow, Poland, with years of hands-on experience in API, performance, and security testing.
He's spoken at conferences all over the world, written countless blog posts, and still somehow finds time to mentor, consult, and automate just about everything.
Today, he's taking us on a journey through the protocols that make modern APIs tick, from HTTP and REST to GraphQL and WebSockets.
Expect practical insights, real demos, and maybe even some secret sauce for your APLs.
Please welcome the person who writes code with one hand and scratches a cat with the other. The honorary Bulgarian from Poland.
The one and only
Dawid Pacia!
Nope, now it is. So, in terms you don't know at which conference you are, here is the reminder. My secret love of Shkembe Chorba is now fully and publicly available. So no more secret, and that's why I'm coming. But also thanks a lot for invitation. Like this event is just amazing. Right behind Shkembe Chorba. So probably see you also next time. I'm not gonna say it yet, but hopefully see you next time. Okay, let's start with this. Actually, now game Bulgaria in a final. That reminds me my first ever talk at a big event, and it was Poland, Switzerland playing in, I think it was European Championship, like playoff phase. And I don't remember which was more stressful, like keeping live score here or talking to people. Probably like keeping live score, but that one was successful. Good. Warm-up time for you. And I know in IT people don't really like to raise your hands, so you can scan QR code. And the question is, which protocols you worked with? And you can obviously select all of them. And I hope it's gonna be active. Yeah, it's working. Before we move forward, I'm really sorry for those working with SOAP. Okay. Yeah, it's more or less as expected. And you are the really good audience because we can give like 10 more seconds, because you almost 100% match the numbers. From Postman. A little bit less or more in some protocols, but that's exactly the reason why I'm gonna talk about those 5, because they are the most popular and the most used. And actually, it's a really nice report if you have time to check it later. It tells much more about infrastructural stuff. Nowadays, it's more about popularity, good practices, so what people do, and probably it's mostly based on like those very large companies, but we know. Like people like to do the same. And this is like quick overview, and I show this slide because I like, I don't know if I can just, no, not this one. There is use it and love it. And there is a huge difference in the 4th one. Like there is a very thin white, very thin blue, light blue one. And WSDL is for SOAP, as you could guess. So there is a huge difference. Everything else is... no worries, if there is disconnection, I speak super loudly, so you probably hear me anyway. Okay, so some obviousness. The first one is we usually define what we do with methods, like usually. The second one, we define endpoints for specific resources. The third one, we have status codes. Let's not get into the details, but we have them, and they should return something. And the fourth one, REST API is a well-known standard. The only problem, none of those is true, or not entirely true. And you will see later, if you have no experience with other protocols, what I really mean. So let's start with REST, and don't stay too long here, because you saw like 98%. So probably you know as well as I do how to test it, how to write code. And this slide is going to show you the structure I want to share with you. So this is how the communication looks like. We have usually some JSON that we send, that we receive. We can send also some data or just pull a data with the pure URL. But three important characteristics I want to mention here. Firstly is bidirectional. So it's request response, like ping pong. Like we send, we receive. We send, we receive. And so on, like volleyball, almost. And if it's good game, then it's good communication. The second one, our methods defines the behavior. And those quote marks, like defines, they are not accidental, but in a, let's talk about it in a second. And the third one, format. Usually it's JSON, but it can be basically everything. It can be XML, I put HTML here, it can be just binary message, whatever you want. But what is important for REST and what matters for other protocols is how we build URLs. And what you see here is probably well known, like you all know this. If not, then I also do consultations, so no worries. You have URL, and that defines what's going on. And this is very specific for REST. Now, somehow this is still a very popular question. What is post doing? Anyone? Like, I know it's super simple, but what is post doing? Post method. Yep? Yes, but only if developer implements it. Post is doing exactly what the developer implements. If you want to remove some elements from the database using post, you can do it. Yeah, you can do it, like no problem. It's very American style, you can do it. Like sky's the limit, it's only in your head. So if you want to build a whole product using only post methods, no problem. And that's why REST is actually not a protocol. It's more like the set of good practices, maybe even suggestions, but it's not a protocol. So and that's why I hate this question at the interview, like what post should do. Or actually, no, this is a good question, what should do. But what is post doing? The only correct answer from my perspective is exactly what the developer implements. And this is much better to talk about those methods in terms of characteristics. And I like the fourth one, because for many, many years, I was somehow pronouncing it as impotent. And now I'm aware of, so that's good. But this is much better characteristics than just simply writing what is post doing. And we have status codes. We know that very well. The only one thing I want to mention here, status codes incorrectly implemented might be very misleading. Because what does it mean to you? 2204. Yeah, usually. that's a good answer. Now, or you could start with it depends, and it's always a good answer. 204 usually it's there was a content and now there is no content. And it's a little bit misleading because it's 200, which we usually recognize. There is some data. So that might be misleading, and it's good also to have some messages instead of just only status codes. And there are obviously many potholes. You can read it. But the most important is this one, definitely. That's the biggest problem with REST. There is usually either no documentation or documentation that is not maintained. And if you have just one field changed, it may break a lot of things. And that is unfortunately very specific for REST. For other protocols, usually we are either forced to keep at least minimum version of documentation or structure, and that helps a lot. So boring REST. No, I mean REST is never boring unless you sleep. Yeah, that's a joke from Poland. Don't expect anything more funny. SOAP. Now, once again, sorry for those working with SOAP. Actually, I was surprising. I thought the popularity and usage is much lower, like 10% maybe. But it's not. And the reason is in high banking or financial institutions, there is still SOAP, and there is a high chance that it will be forever. So it will never finish because the system is just too complex to modify it. It needs to be rewritten fully. And there is, like Lena yesterday was talking about business value. There is simply no business value in it. It's probably years of writing from the scratch. If we have huge banking system using SOAP, there is no reason to change it. But for those who have never worked with SOAP, actually I should start from the body, but let's start from those characteristics. It's the same. It's request response. So we send, we receive messages. But we don't have methods. So like in REST, we don't have methods here. Actually, because it's all HTTP or HTTPS communication, but underneath it's post request. That's probably on this layer. And the third one, it uses XML. And it's not too friendly anymore. Like everyone likes JSON. Not everyone likes XML. And it's very overwhelming. As you see, the whole structure, and it might be too small. And I wouldn't see it even sitting in a first row with glasses. But that might be due to my age also. So you see the request sent, and there is a singular URL. It doesn't change. It's always the same. Now, what are pros and cons testing this? And it's super easy to find cons, surprisingly. So it's complex because it relies fully on standards, like SOAP standards. There is not much tooling. And if you want to use any modern tooling, like, I don't know, Postman is probably now the most popular for just API communication. But there are tens of tools. I know only one, SOAP UI, that fully supports SOAP communication. I think it's SmartBear tool. Others, you need to define by yourself, like all the headers, all the structure, and so on. Not too friendly. And the reusability is not the strong, also not the strong point. But to be fully fair, I try to find some pros. So there are not many experts. That's surely. So if you know it, you are one of only few. And it learns you a lot. Who of you in other protocol had a chance to define namespaces? Yeah, probably because there are no namespaces in other protocols. And I started as C++ developer, and that's a reminder of namespaces, like for many, many years. And the first one, and this is the real pros, it needs some definition. So you have, we can say you have a documentation, or you have at least a reference how you should build a request and what should be the response. So you are forced to keep a documentation. Now, what are my testing hints for those writing or testing SOAP protocol? The first one is, because it's all about structure, you should really focus on firstly all the elements, all the components, but also not like, very often not like in REST, you have failures or all the issues coming as a separate segment of the response, not as a status code. Usually you just get 500, and that's the end. But it's not too insightful. To get more into details, you probably need to check this one. The second one is load testing, and those messages are very often huge. Even if you have just one param to pass, you need to build the whole structure of XML. So it's good to test it from the performance perspective, but, and that's huge but, in many banks, you don't care that much about performance. Because if you wait 10 seconds to payment be processed, is it really a problem? Like, we are used to wait, at least for payments and banking systems. We see this loading or sending or waiting screen, and okay, we are just waiting. And the third one, taking care of message structure. And I like what Postman suggests in terms of testing XML responses. First thing to do is translate it to JSON, and then you can test. What are the potholes? I think the biggest one, and I like this, this meme on the left, if you have never seen and you see it for the first time, SOAP is just the same as REST, but put a lot of unnecessary stuff and send a request. Good. GraphQL. This one is probably my favorite one, but yeah, but you might disagree. And I saw GraphQL was the least popular, probably like 14% maybe only. It's like defined by Facebook, and it's not young. Actually, I just, before my talk, I started thinking when it was released, and it's, I think, 2014, so over 10 years. Time goes quickly. And yeah, this is how it looks like. So we send a syntax similar to, a little bit similar to JSON. It's predefined by GraphQL syntax of, I just wonder if you can see it. Can you see it from the back? Like, what is there? Okay, okay, that's good. So you define it in that way, and you exactly define which fields you want to receive. But you have also the middle layer, so something that communicates between client and other resources like microservices, databases, and so on. And talking about attributes, yeah, it's also bidirectional. So we request, we send, we receive, but there is also persistent connection, which I will talk about a little bit later. Then we have methods, and it's again, like underneath there is post or WebSockets and single URL, the same as in SOAP. And the third one, we have a dedicated query format, and you will receive it in JSON, fortunately, in a JSON format. Now, in terms of operations we can do, it's minimized comparing to what you know from REST. So we have just query. Query is to extract data. We pull data, so it's like probably get for REST. And then we have mutations. For those in coding in JS, mutations is probably self-descriptive. So we simply mutate data. So we can edit, update, or delete, whatever we want. And we have subscriptions, which gives us notification if some specific event happens. What is the specific event? I will describe in a second once we go to WebSockets. So we have basically 3 operations. But we don't really have status codes. I mean, we can see error, but those errors are not too helpful, many of them. Instead, GraphQL defines own set of errors, and they come as the response. And the problem is, it might very often look like this. So you get 200, but underneath there is a problem. And that's probably one of the biggest pains in testing. So you assume it's fine, because you always check if it's not 200 or 201, but underneath there is a real issue. So it might look like this. Without getting deep into the structure, you can send a mutation and then create a new instance of an object, or you can just pull data. But there is a significant risk which should be considered in testing. So it works like that. We have an operation name, get robots, and then we want to get all the models. And for the model, we want to get a list of all the robots for this specific model. But then, for the robot, we want to get model. And for this model, we want to get a list of all the robots. So we can infinitely nest those fields, which causes a lot of issues with performance. We can just break the server very easily. So what are testing hints for GraphQL? Errors. As you have seen, don't rely on response codes. It's not too helpful. Better to check what really comes as the response. Then queries and mutations, if you don't know it, it's very intuitive. If you know any query language, like SQL, for example, that's very, very intuitive. The third one, complexity, is the key. So very often the server has no limit for the complexity, so you can just hang the server. It's fully stuck, and I've seen it a lot of times. And the fourth one, there are a lot of helpful interfaces for testing. And I recommend Poke API. It's API for Pokemons. And now Pokemons are super trendy. And that's something I use for workshops also. A lot of data, even if you don't like Pokemons, there are some nice curiosities about them. So to visualize errors, the biggest issue with HTTP, but remember that underneath there is just a regular request, and this middle layer, usually it's called Apollo server, is communicating with other resources. And you don't see it as a client. It's just single request response. But we need to move forward. WebSockets. Now, WebSockets are slightly different because it's bidirectional at first, and it persists connection. So we connect and we exchange data. So like tracking live scores usually works using WebSockets. You just set the connection, and this is the mythical 100 status you might receive, because many people, when you ask them if they have ever seen status 100 anything, they say no. So it's not mystery anymore. If you have WebSockets, this 101 is usually to set the connection. And then you have just messages that are exchanging. The second attribute, there are no methods because it's persistent connection. That is just get to set the initial connection, make a handshake, and so on. And in terms of format, it can be UTF-8 or just binary payload that is encoded or decoded on both ends if you want to save transfer, for example. Now, testing hints for WebSockets. Unfortunately, not as for those three before, there is no simple way to do quick semi-automation using Postman or Bruno or any other modern tool. You either test it manually or you do just pure coding, because none of those tools supports real automation. The second one, you focus not only on functional part, but there are other attributes that you need to test because of the specifics of permanent connection. So handshake, what is going on if we break the connection, if it's reconnecting? What is the maximum size of messages, and so on. So very much on the connection layer. Just imagine, what would you test if you have permanent connection. And permanent connection might be like you call to your grandma saying, hey, I'm coming for a weekend, could you make me kębę ciorba? The third one, don't be afraid. It's nothing scary. It's just different way of communication, and if someone tests only like request response, that might be a little bit tricky, but it's not. And usually, as nowadays with AI, you can say after a day of reading that you are an expert. There's no difference. But one important thing, WebSockets sometimes, what I've seen at the companies, to avoid using WebSockets, companies send and receive a lot of requests. So instead of just setting a single WebSocket to exchange messages, there is a 10, 20, 30 requests sent and received. So in terms of optimization of architecture, it's not the best one. And I told you I'm going to back to subscriptions. And the reason is there are WebSockets underneath. So this is how subscriptions works. You simply connect. You have a WebSocket underneath. And if you say, I want to get a notification once someone orders kębę ciorba, you get it. I know it's not funny anymore, but I'm going to say it anyway. Webhooks. Very quickly, because my time is almost over, and it's -01, because I think what you should know is just a structure. So you subscribe to an event, and you wait for event. Like notifications on your phone usually work as webhooks. And it's one direction. This is intended joke for millennials and boomers. So you send and forget. Yeah, now I see who understands. Good. So this is a quick way to check what is the age of your audience. Second one, methods. Like, yeah, there are no methods. We just subscribe to an event, and then we wait for messages. And formats, basically anything that is like text-like form. It might be XML, it might be JSON. Usually it's JSON because it's the common standard. So what are the real hints for webhook testing? Just be careful. There is not much to do. And be careful, otherwise you get something like this. And this one on the right, far right, the first message, it's, I think, from last year in Poland. And there is a new rule in Poland. If you can read it quickly now, all those letters, you get immediate citizenship. I don't know why it was for me, but if someone wants to try and it's not Polish, you can try, yeah. Yeah, we have lightning talks. I can help. But yeah, that's a big problem. If we send a lot of notifications instead of testing environment to prod environment, this is very often ending up like this. So, yeah, just be careful, because webhook is like, I throw it away, and there is no way to stop it. And if it's prod, everyone sees it. Otherwise, you might just wait forever, and it never arrives. Like some of my packages from DHL. What's next then? Well, I don't have much to say here, except those hints I have gave to you. The only one is this one. Like, learning is not compulsory, but neither is survival. And the guy, William Edwards Deming, actually, who knows the guy? Okay. Again, it's another way of checking age of the audience. This is the guy from 50, 60 years ago. He's a quality guru, by the way. So if there are QAs among the audience, who's QA? Okay. He's quality guru, but more on the industrial side. So he wrote a lot of, I think it's like 12 rules of Deming rules or something. I'm not like guys working with production in the factory, but he was initial quality guru before there was IT even. So this is the sentence I want to leave you with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dawid. Unfortunately, there is no time for questions here.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Is there? We don't have lots of lightning talkers, so we have time for one question from the. There is one question. You'll receive the mic now, and the T-shirt later.
Thank you. I think you said that GraphQL might be one of your favorites or your favorite one. Why do you prefer it over everything else?
So there is, okay, how many minutes I have? I have 30 minutes, so 30 seconds. But I might make it 30 minutes. So quickly answering, for example, in REST there is something like overfetching and underfetching. Overfetching is when you just want to get, for example, ID of the person, and instead you get a whole body that size. For GraphQL, you might just say, hey, give me this one single field. So you exactly specify what do you want to receive. And underfetching is if you want to get a specific, not set, but yeah, let's call it set of data, and one endpoint is not enough, and you need to call like 3 different endpoints. In GraphQL, you just call it single endpoint and one structure of a query, and you simply wait. So yeah, for example, this is one of the reasons I really like it, but there are cons, of course, also. You need, for example, this middle layer to translate between client and all the resources you have in your infrastructure. So, but I like it, yeah, it's very subjective, but yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Dawid will be
Attention.
waiting for you in the speaker's corner during the next break to ask him more questions. You want to ask now? It's important question. Okay, one more question from me.
And you have a T-shirt.
On the house.
Hello.
Question.
It was a very nice talk, David. How can you test the optimization, performance optimization of REST?
Which one?
REST API.
Performance
Yes.
of REST API.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's
Yeah, in the speaker's corner.
yeah. Nowadays, how you test it is you open ChatGPT, you ask how to test performance, then you download the proper software, and you copy-paste the code. Yeah, that's quick answer.
Thank you very much. Once again, we can meet Dawid in speaker's corner in just a few minutes, just a half an hour. And now let's send him off of the stage with big round of applause, Dawid Pacia!